So I'll take that back and we'll go to 7.2, consideration of Board of Supervisor salaries in 12 comparison counties. And I'll turn this over to CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to introduce this item, and then HR Director Samek is going to review with you the actual salary information that she obtained from the 12 comparison counties. As you know, from the time you implemented the first round of the 2019 class and compensation study, you froze Board of Supervisor salaries, so no adjustment was given at the time the study implementation occurred. And so the salary is presently frozen at $63,714 per year. And then there's an additional compensation amount for the chair, an extra $2,400. And so before Pam gives you the details on what the other counties, how the other counties pay supervisors, I just wanted to put in perspective what that $63,714 means in comparison to what you're paying the rest of your workforce. So at present, at that level, there are only two different classifications out of 91 that are in the management resolution that are paid less than that amount. So in other words, the vast majority of management employees earn more than what is the base Board of Supervisors salary, given that it's frozen at that level. And then there are a lot of employees in our other units that are more comparable to that. And typically, the people that earn at that rate are generally people that supervise other people, various kinds of analysts, a whole host of different analysts and such, and then various coordinator positions. And so we felt that this discussion would be timely to have, given that your board are the leaders of our county, and you have a very different role than staff, and every county job and employee in it is of great value, but it certainly would appear that the compensation is a bit off as it is presently frozen. So I will turn it over to the director to give you the details on what she learned from the other counties.
So what I did, I went to each county code and looked up how they paid the Board of Supervisors as noted here on the salary sheet, where they referenced elected officials or a percentage. I went to the state controller's report to verify the information. I used 2020 data, which is close to the 2019 data we used for employees. So trying to be fair and consistent in how we applied our practices, that's how I did that. And then noted other benefits and noted where the chair is paid a little bit more or based on a percentage. And so if we went back to the method of 60% of elected, then your salary would change from $63,714 to $85,855. And you can see how that relates to the other counties and where specifically they noted that it's based on a 40-hour work week. I noted that in the notes section just as a point of reference.
Any questions?
So generally, as you can see, the salaries are kind of all over the place. It doesn't look like there's a tremendous amount of consistency in what boards of supervisors members are paid in the other counties. It would appear that in some counties, the pay may be based on the expectation that board members only work Tuesdays. And there may have been a time in the past when there was truth to that, but I don't see that happening now. I know the long hours your board members work. And again, as Pam noted, a few of these comparison counties, perhaps others that we didn't look at, base compensation on a percent of the Superior Court judge salaries. And if you look at the other attachment to your packet, if you wanted to look at something like that, it's highlighted in the yellow if you selected a percentage, what it would look like. And so we don't have any kind of action before you today, but we're seeking your direction if you have any on what you would like us to prepare.
In addition, as noted, a lot of the other counties also have an auto allowance in addition to the pay that's noted here.
An auto meaning like mileage or something like that?
Mileage or a stipend.
A monthly vehicle allowance.
And because I remember at one time we had decided to not even entertain that
I
when,
think it's still there, we just don't use it.
yeah.
Yeah, nobody has submitted a mileage claim in several years.
Right. So I've just noted that because I remember it being specified in one of our meetings that, so just highlighting that. Any comments from the board or questions? Supervisor Sabatier?
I wanted to speak on if we agree to take a look and move forward with some salary increases. I was having a conversation with CAO Hutchinson and also Director Samick, and they sent me something from LA, and it wasn't anything of, it wasn't an innovative thing, but I feel like it's a good idea to follow what they did. They have Board of Supervisors responsibilities. Of course, there's no consequences for not taking on those responsibilities, but we don't have any documentation that says what our responsibilities are. We have a process and procedures on how we do things, but I think it's not a bad idea, especially if we do this, to basically say this is what's expected of somebody in these seats and these positions, because we know from past history that that's not always the case, that we can get somebody who just shows up on Tuesday, says yes or no, has not read anything, and goes back home, and there's no difference in how they're being treated financially for that work level that they've done. And so I think that having some sort of document like that to kind of set an expectation or a standard, I think would be great. Again, this came from LA County. I appreciated the sharing of that. And it really had nothing of you shall. It's just the simple things that we expect of one another here on this dais. And it's to ensure a level of standard for the future, is basically what I think it would be for, and if we agree to doing that. And even if we don't agree to the raises, I still think it's a good idea. I do want to talk about the chair. I just recently experienced the chair, and I'm sure that others who have had that experience as well can chime in. You get treated like you are kind of like people from every district will reach out. No, you're the chair, you can do this. And so you get a lot more phone calls, you get a lot more emails, you get a lot more interactions. And when it comes to working with our CAO and dealing with small things or big things or working on the agenda and whatnot, it requires more hours of the day to be able to deal with some of the things that come up. Some things are simple, some things are more complex, but you're involved in a lot more strategic conversation in order to be able to understand how we bring things here to the board, or how you deal with circumstances that presented themselves. And I think that 2,400 is not adequate for the job that is expected from a person in the chair position. And I feel comfortable saying that, since I am the furthest person from being the next chair. And I know that in my experience, while I appreciated being the chair, it was an honor. I think that 2,400, I'd be looking at possibly double.
Thank you for that. One of the things I'd like to add before I open it up to public input is that I do appreciate one of the statements made before by county council and even on this agenda, talking about attaching it to judge salaries and a percentage of that. And the reason I say that is, once we do that, now anyone that takes our positions don't have to go before voting on this. It's so controversial. It's so, it brings a lot of just negative attention for someone to vote on their own salary. And so for me, I'm all about ending that type of thing and focusing on the problems. And so whatever decision we make, That's the one I favor the most. I'm fine with what Supervisor Sabatier said about the chair, but I also had talked about another thing before, and it was like taboo. I talked about staff, in situations where we're, in my district, for example, we all get a lot of calls. And if there's like an element that doesn't want to see the supervisors get a raise, which I'm willing to, do that again, but let me get a staff member or something attached to us or something, or even just the chair. I don't know that way, because that person is expected to do a lot more. I'm just throwing out other ideas because I know that this is such a controversial issue. And so I just wanted to highlight those other options and discussions or whatever, so. And with that, any other comments, Supervisor Pyska?
Well, I'd like to see what you were supplied from LA County, because those were my thoughts as well. I feel like I am only on my second year, but after spending a lot of years watching how the board interacts, I feel like there's been a lot of growth and participation of the board members and what they do. And I'd like to see some expectation that it is a full-time job, so that anybody considering going into this has that clear understanding of what we're all going to expect from each other. Because if we have one person not carrying that load, then it falls on the other of us, and that's not fair either. So we have committees, we have commitments. I would really like to see that clearly laid out for us to sign up for, and also for anybody that's considering stepping into this role. They really truly understand what the responsibility is going to be. And I think at some point, as we grow and as our workloads grow, we will need to consider staff. I don't know if we're quite there yet. I feel like we work a lot. All of us really work a lot, and we're able to handle it. But I think as our county grows and as we grow, that's going to be the next step that we will have to consider some time down the road.
My only comment to that was, if we don't want to entertain a raise, then let's get a staff member and pay someone else to help us with some of the things. That's all. I wasn't saying we need that, and I'm just throwing options out to.
Oh, yeah, and I completely appreciate that, because, yeah, you're right. It's either
Yeah.
It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah. Vice Chair Scott.
And I would definitely agree that in the last 5 years, our workload is definitely different than now than it was 5 years ago. I think, 6 years ago, you could come in here as somebody that was retired and was just looking for something to do. But now with our committee assignments and everything that we're expected to do, it is definitely has turned into from a part-time to a full-time position. And I think I like the idea of having, what we should be doing. I know I heard many times when I got into the seat that they were excited to see a supervisor at committee meetings, because one hadn't been there for years. And, we signed up for these committees. We should be expected to show up to these committees and do our job. So I would love to see some sort of document that lays out, this is what we're expecting for you to do. Because it does. If one supervisor doesn't do the work, it does trickle down onto the other ones. If one supervisor is not answering their phone, they're going to reach out to another supervisor to try to get their questions answered. So I really would like to see that. And the raises, I would like to see that also. In my position now, I've been trying to find somebody that would fill my position, willing to step in. And the qualified people I found that could do this job are unwilling to do that because of the pay. They'd be taking a pay cut to be able to get into this position.
And I'll just add to that, we have 2 members who are running unopposed. And why is that? I'm not trying to change that. I'm just saying we have a healthy democracy, and it would be healthy to have opponents. Yeah. And clearly, anybody that's, qualified and they have a better job than this. So it's difficult. I think that says something.
Supervisor Simon? And then,
So, heard a lot of the comments and completely agree. I do like Supervisor Kranz, like he was saying, that if we're gonna do something or look at something, that it be tied to the judges' salaries as you move forward, then it's kind of set going forward, coming in, what we're gonna be looking at as you do that. Obviously, preparing people for this job is a challenge because nobody saw a pandemic coming. I knew it was running for office, disasters, natural disasters, where we need to go, support changes for our employees here in the county. But the disaster was something that was unbelievable, and I was lucky enough to be the chair when all that happened. And, it's a real challenge. So I like the conversations that have been had. If there's not a raise, and we talk about increasing the amount for the chair as it goes through, because I've been able to go through it, like I said, in the world, a pandemic that the world had never seen. So challenges definitely come along that you don't see. So be willing to look at it at this point, though. But had my conversation when we did the budgets and stuff last year that, for me personally, I can't talk about someone else who wants to run for this office or when I'm not here, but you're definitely going to have to look at that. When we look at recruitment strategies where people want to do something, you got to be able to take care of your family completely to really fully commit. So, yeah, I agree. We'll see more conversations to be had. Appreciate the information. But at this point, I'm not pushing for a raise, obviously, just the conversation. And as far as something from LA or a setup for someone to look at when they come into the office, which would be great. Like I said, when I came in, there was, hey, you're on all these committees. Well, when do they meet? Well, we don't know. Okay, well, great. So all these things, you tell us once you go. It is, yeah, I think all those guidelines are good. But ultimately, every 4 years, the voters get to say, yeah, you're doing a good job or you're not doing a good job. And, it's a great part about what we do. So either you do your job or you won't be here. It's that simple.
CEO Hutchinson and then
Yeah,
Supervisor.
just real quickly, the two supervisors on this end of the dais mentioned that they'd like to see the LA County example that I found, and there are other examples. If you do a search of Board of Supervisors responsibilities in California, you will find more along these lines than just LA counties, but this is it that I did a share screen with that illustrates for you what LA County has written up. They're a charter county, so if you were going to have something like this, it might be a little bit different than this, but it basically outlines what you do. I don't believe counties generally have job descriptions for boards of supervisors. They, pretty much cite what the code says about your duties. So that's what it is, what LA County had. It just seemed like a good example as a starting point.
Supervisor Spatier.
I just wanted to mention I know that Supervisor Scott was talking about making it to committees and others have to pull the weight if you don't. And I think it's even worse than that. I think that if you don't go to committees, you miss out on a lot of good information that you can hand out to your colleagues. I think that some decisions are made that if you're not there, it might not be the decision that your colleagues were hoping that you would make. And so I think that we're being asked to do things, not just to do things, we're being asked to do things because there's importance behind what we're doing. So I think it's very important to, at the very least, show up, right? So I think those are the types of things that I would love to see just written down, just why what we're asking you to do is important and why you need to do it well. I know that for me, this is not something that today I want to push for any specific thing, but I do agree with the judges being connected. I know that in the past it was connected to other elected officials, but yet we control what our elected officials get paid. And so if we give them a raise, then we would automatically be getting a raise too. And so I think that's the wrong connection to make. I'd like to separate it as much as possible. So I agree that if we do make a change, that it would be connected to the judges, and that no decision needs to be made until we know that we have a balanced budget. I know that for mid-year, we borrowed quite a bit already from our cannabis taxes in order to ensure that the increases in our salaries were taken care of. I have no idea what that looks like currently for our budget, and I want to make sure that everything is covered before we start taking a look at this. So reviewing this again during the budget time, I think would be the appropriate time.
we'll open it up for public input. Does anybody in the chambers want to say anything, or if there's anyone on Zoom?
No hands.
All right, and so I'll bring it back to the board, and I think it's just direction, right? Providing direction, because it's just discussion.
Just discussion.
Yeah. Right. And so with that, thank you for the presentation, thank you for the discussion, and Ms. Grant, is there anything I missed? No, we're good? All right, thank you again. All right,